So Yareli. So in my Warframe tier list, I put Yareli in decent, but that may have been changed a little bit. Like in the recent times, I've been playing Yareli so much in the past few weeks, probably in the past month or so. I've been using her to do Omnia Fissures, pretty much anything to do with the Sanctum Anatomica, and I've been really enjoying using her. And I think you guys, if you haven't tried Yareli yet, I think you guys should test this out and try this build. I think you'll have a lot of fun. Yeah, because the normal conception is that a lot of people don't really like to use Yareli, and that's primarily due to the fact that the Marilena, her second ability, puts you on a K drive, and a lot of the tile sets in Warframe are a bit awkward for for the K drive, I should say. So pretty much what I did here is to use her augment mod, which is Loyal Marilena, which essentially it removes the whole K drive aspect of it. So you're just now walking around with Marilena riding next to you, and it's pretty convenient. So you could actually play Warframe like a Warframe, you know. So yeah, let me know if you guys like the fashion and all that stuff. Let's go ahead and take a look at her abilities and see exactly what's going on for Yareli. So for Yareli's passive, she gains 200% crit chance for secondary weapons when she's been moving for 1.5 seconds. So as long as you're on the move, you'll get that plus 200% crit chance, and this is additive to mods, to crit mods. So whatever crit mods you have on your weapon, it's additive, it's not multiplicative. And for her first ability, this is Sea Snares. This is one of the best crowd control abilities in the game, in my opinion. This essentially sustains or it lifts the enemies in the air and keeps them there for the set duration. And whilst they're in this, they also get damage vulnerability, right? So as you can see here, I have 342% damage vulnerability, which simply means that the enemies take a lot more damage whilst in this. You could have 15 enemies at a time. If you cast it after having 15, the first one or first few will disappear and losing the effect. And this right here is the second ability, Marilena, which brings out the K drive. This is Yareli's main like survivability tool, along besides like shield getting and all that stuff. But yeah, so here we have Aqua Blaze. This is probably the most simple ability. All it does is spin a bunch of blades doing a lot of slash damage. This pairs well with Sea Snares because of that damage vulnerability. And then moving into the fourth ability, we have Riptide. Riptide is essentially just a grouping ability. It grabs the enemies that are close by, put them in the vortex. And fun thing is that once the enemies are in here, if they've already had Sea Snares, they'll remain Sea Snared. So they'll still take damage vulnerability or take more damage while it's in there. So essentially, let me go ahead and show you guys exactly how the abilities work. Right here in the simulacrum. So casting the 1, as you see I casted it, and the bubbles then seek out the 5 enemies. It's similar to how Caliban's second ability keeps the enemies lifted in the air. So it does just suspend them in the air, making them very easy to headshot if you're using incarnate weapons. And as I said, you could always have like 15 of these guys, or 15 enemies suspended at any time. Right, and then moving into the second ability, as I said, it's Marilena, which essentially just summons Marilena. So using the Loyal Marilena Augment mod, you summon Marilena. She also goes ahead and shoots out the Sea Snares every now and then, right? And the best thing about Marilena is she is the main survivability tool because she grants you 90% damage reduction. So keeping her alive is key to your survivability. And down in the bottom right corner, you can see her health. Essentially, you could always recast the ability as well. Like right now, you can go ahead and just recast it. If you see she's getting low on health, or if you're in a pinch, or if anything is the case, you just go ahead and recast it. However, once the health goes down, it should disappear, and then you'll have to recast her again, right? And here I'm using the third ability, which is the Sea Blades, I think. I'm not remembering how it's called. So in most other people's builds, this would be the ability to remove this or Riptide. However, this build right here is a no-helmeted build because this is very actually useful when it comes down to like close quarters enemies, because the slash procs do stagger the enemies to some degree. So enemies that are close by will take staggers. Right here, using the fourth ability Riptide, as you see, groups up the enemies, and while I'm standing there with the blades, it'll go ahead and then start them up. And that is pretty much it for her abilities when it comes on to everything, right? So here I'm going to go ahead and use the fourth ability. I'm going to go ahead and use some Sea Snares. And something that would be probably cool to use with this ability is probably something like a chaining weapon or a weapon that does a lot of blast damage. Also, when it comes on to Riptide, once the bubble disappears or once the duration ends, it'll explode, dealing a percentage of all the enemies that are in there health-wise as damage. Right, and here I am using the weapon of today's choice, which is the Furious. So this build is pretty much all centered around your weapons and not necessarily her abilities per se. Her abilities pair well with weapons because she is somewhat of a weapons platform, if not a weapons platform. She buffs crit chance for secondaries, and her first ability debuffs the enemies to such a high regard. And this is right here for our primary weapon. We'll be using the Miter. This is only here for acolytes, so I'm pretty much just using the Miter just for my acolytes. Whenever acolytes spawn, the Furious will be the main weapon throughout the entire video. Right, and here taking a look at the Miter build, we have Galvanized Chamber for multi-shot. We have Vital Sense for crit damage, Critical Delay for more crit chance. We have Aptitude, Galvanized Aptitude for status chance. We are currently running Cold and Corrosive. Reason being is once the Miter goes into its current form, it gains heat, so the Cold will then transform into Blast. Right, so here's the Riven. I'm currently getting a Riven with crit chance and crit damage with Cold on it as well. And here is the build for the Furious. I'm currently running a Viral Heat and Radiation build using Cascadian Flare as well. So essentially I'm running Accelerated Isotope for the Radiation pretty much because I'm pretty much using this build entirely against the Murmur faction, which are weak to Radiation. But you could also swap out the Accelerated Isotope for a Bane mod if you're choosing. You could use whichever one you'd want, whether you're fighting the Grineer, Corpus, Murmur, or even the Infested if you want to. But yeah, so that's pretty much it for the weapons. And so for the companion, we currently have the Doriga, which essentially is just here to prime enemies and use Coolant Lake to freeze up a few enemies. Pretty much just using this for pretty much just priming and utility. So that's it. And we have the weapon is the Tazakor, and as I said, this is just for priming. I haven't even built this to some extent. I was gonna use like Viral on this. You could probably use Viral, but seeing that I wanted more than one status effects, I went ahead and used Corrosive Cold on it as well, seeing as I have Viral on my Furious already, right? And going into the Steel Path run, I'm going to go ahead and get myself some energy. I could just use Zenerate because I am using Zenerate, but I went ahead and popped an energy pad.
It's going down, kids.
Right, and so the normal gameplay loop would pretty much be once the mission starts, summon Merlina, and then cast my 3 to essentially make sure that any enemies like these canines or these dogs, I'm not sure what they're called, once they run up to me, they somewhat take stagger and slow down to some degree, so I could then handle them very easily. And go ahead and charge the Incarnate on the Miter. Sorry about the background. So essentially what I want to do is naturally summon or charge the Incarnate Adapter, or charge the Incarnate form on the Miter, then pocket it to ensure that whenever an Acolyte does spawn, I have it ready. And then from there, I'll just use the Furious, because she's buffing the Furious' crit chance, because as you know, the Furious isn't really a crit heavy weapon. It only has like 18% crit chance innately, or probably less than that. Yeah, it's less than that because I added mods to get it up to 18%. So yeah, it's not really a crit focused weapon. So having her having her passive to actually boost the crit chance is very beneficial to this weapon. Because as you can see, I'm sustaining yellow and orange crits. You'll probably barely ever see a red crit with this build. However, it's not needed, seeing as the Furious does so much damage already. Right, and so as you guys can see, I'm pretty much just casting my 1 into groups of enemies, or anytime an enemy is like in range, because when it comes on to these sea snares, once you cast them, they just linger around for the duration, and then they seek out an enemy once an enemy gets in range, automatically trapping the enemy and debuffing them.
seconds of life support remaining.
And here we have the first acolyte spawning in. This is Torment, and as you guys will see, the miter just pretty much gets rid of him. All we really do is just go ahead and cast Sea Snares or have Sea Snares lingering. Once these Sea Snares grab the acolyte, they get debuffed, and then like 1 or 2 shots from the miter pretty much just wipes them off the face of the map.
Looks like you could use a bit of life support.
And here we have Misery spawning in. As you guys can see, same routine, cast Sea Snares, get the miter out, and just a few shots, and it's gone. Such a broken weapon, man. I don't know why people don't play the Incarnate Miter or the Miter Incarnate a lot more. I do know it's a bit finicky to charge every now and then because of how the projectiles work. Hence why I have like terminal velocity on it to get myself more projectile speed. And that's where we wrap up the Steel Path run. So let's now go ahead and get back into the Orbiter so I could show you guys the build itself and talk about what we did. So looking at the build right here, we currently have Growing Power in the Aura slot. When it comes on to Arcanes, we have Arcane Aegis and Arcane Energize. Arcane Energize is subjective. You could always swap this out for anything that you want to. I just had it here to ensure that I'm okay with energy. You could always swap this out for something else. Probably like an Equilibrium Shard or something like that, seeing as I do have Synth Deconstruct on my companion. So let's see here. So when it comes on to mods, we currently have Growing Power, Umbral Intensify, and Blind Rage for strength. We currently have Streamline for the efficiency. We currently have Prime Flow for the energy reserves. We have Adaptation for more damage reduction. And as I said, we have Lord Marlena for Boreal's Hatred. It gives more shield capacity because this is a shield tanking build. However, you could go ahead and swap this out for Prime Redirection. I just didn't want to put more Forma into her as yet. I probably will do that sometime later in time. However, you could always just swap out Boreal's Hatred. It does give a little bit more shield capacity as well as a little bit more ability efficiency. But I do think having a bigger shield pool will be more beneficial to you than that because you don't really run out of energy that much. But yeah, so that's pretty much the build. Let me know if you guys test it out. Let me know if you guys enjoy it. But yeah, test out Yareli. She's super fun. She's actually really fun, and you know, some of us have been living under a rock, and yeah, to those guys in the comments in my tier list video talking about, hey, Yareli's cool, Yareli's great. Trust me, I know now. Like, I've already used her in the past where like, yo, she's not that great and such, but playing with her for such a long time, I could really start appreciating her. And yeah, thank you guys so much for stopping by. Thank you guys for tuning into the video. Thank you guys for subscribing and all that stuff. Like the video, subscribe. Peace.